Hi, everyone. Welcome to our fireside chat. We're just going to let everyone get settled to join us, and we'll get started in another minute or so. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's fireside chat. We're going to get started. If you're just joining, you made it just in time. We're getting started right now. You are watching Why Did We Fire the Office? But before we introduce our speakers, let's get a little housekeeping out of the way. So we are currently in a Zoom webinar, and as an attendee, you are not on video or audio. You are in listen and view only mode. However, you can submit your questions using the Q&A panel, and we encourage you to ask those questions during the chat. The chat function is disabled for you as an attendee, but we may send information out via the chat, so keep your eye on that. Of course, again, you can use the Q&A, and you can also use the webinar reactions. We are recording today's webinar, and we will be sending out a follow-up email after the session is over with a link to the recording. Now, let me introduce you to our guest and host. Oded Gal is an investor, advisor, and board member of startups building the future of work. He is currently an independent board member for Neat, an LP and advisor for R Squared Ventures, and an advisor for Flexspace. Oded was the chief product officer at Zoom for 7 years, helming product development and UI design from video conferencing software to a broad-based communications platform, including conference room system, phone system, chat, contact center, and developer and partner ecosystems. Prior to Zoom, Oded held product leadership roles at Blue Jeans and Cisco and led business development for Radvision. Oded has a BSc in electrical engineering from the Technion Israel Institute of Technology. And our host is Eyal Lasker, CEO of Flexspace. He's an entrepreneur and tech leader with over 15 years of experience. His innovative contributions include leading the product development for Uber Freight's mobile app team, spearheading growth strategies at WeWork by developing new flexible memberships, and serving as a founding member in the consumer domain at Klarna. Eyal holds a BSc in physics and astronomy from Tel Aviv University and an MBA from Reichman University. All right, well, that's our guest and our host. Let's get started. Welcome.
All right, thanks, Kristen. Oded, hello.
Hey, great to see you.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We've been chatting over the last few weeks about technology and the future of work, and we thought it may be relevant for our audience as well. So I'm super excited to have you here.
Yes, great to be here and be with all the audience members. So yeah, let's roll.
All right, so Zoom, which you know fairly well, but also Meta, JP Morgan, and other companies announced their return to office policy, calling employees back. I also noticed that Castle's back to work parameter, which measures the average utilization rate across office space in the 10 largest metros in the US, last week was at 47%. And also speaking with our customers and other companies, they are reporting even lower numbers. So kind of that's begged the question of, why did we fire the office? What was wrong with it?
Yes, I would say, we basically fired the old office. The office still exists, but kind of a different form. I would say it's smaller, it's more focused on collaboration, and it's less accessible for a lot of people who became remote. And as a result, a lot of companies are making that switch. They're kind of changing the layouts of these offices. They're kind of downsizing, closing some of the remote offices. That's kind of a big change that's happening because of the shift that is happening towards this new way of work.
Yeah, so just to summarize, so yeah, the office is not dead, it's just different. And the second thing is that work is not tied to any one single location anymore. So, when work can be done from anywhere, what does it mean to go to work?
Yeah, that's a good point. Going to work is not like it used to be. I personally, on a personal level, I used to be that person who forces everyone to be in the office in one open space. We were in this all product and design were in one section. That's how we used to work. But that's kind of world is gone. And people have kind of learned that that flexibility of combining office and home is so valuable, and they don't want to go back to kind of full-time office work, and that what changed, and that really drives this different behavior of thinking of work as something more flexible, something that is more fluid. It's not just kind of sitting in your desk on your desk and kind of doing the work, but being more kind of responsible for your own time and using all kinds of tools to really create that collaboration between teams that are distributed.
Totally, and that's distributed team is not a new thing, right? We all experienced that in our career even before COVID. Maybe that was really the start of hybrid as we know it today.
Yeah, absolutely. Eyal, you worked at Uber in your past, and Uber was actually a flagship company customer at the time when we built solutions for the office. So I know you've been experiencing Zoom rooms with Uber, and that was really a partnership, if you think about it, between Uber and Zoom at the time where we started building this, solution for the conference room, the Zoom room. And I think at some point it was really, as Uber was growing so fast, and every conference room they've built around the world was by default including a Zoom room like device and camera and everything embedded into the conference room. That was kind of my pride in my product, but I think you can kind of share how it used to be from a productivity standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. I remember those days, like entering the first time to a Zoom room at Uber, and just everything just worked, right? And I think that was really the magic of Zoom, where it made video conferencing reliable, right? It was just reliable, easy to use, no friction, seamless. And with that, right, we are experiencing today some friction as it comes to hybrid work. And I know a lot of people in the audience are thinking about that, and that's a problem they are trying to solve. So my question to you is, how do we streamline hybrid work?
Yes, that's basically, if you think about it, that's the core problem right now that we're seeing is companies decided, yeah, we have to bring people to the office. It's, part-time, but, there are a lot of people who are remote. There's a lot of, confusing days or scheduling capabilities that people have. How do really they make these asynchronous collaboration sessions effective? And it can only be effective, really, if you think about it, when people come together in the same space. And you can have activities like socializing, bonding, training, or even kind of happy hours. You can do it remotely, but it's not as effective. It takes longer, it takes more time, it takes more effort. So bringing everyone to spaces and making them work together physically makes these synchronous activities much more effective. And really the question is, what do we do to make it happen in an effective way? That's kind of the problem that we have to solve. And I think back to really how it used to be before the pandemic with Zoom and companies like Uber. If you think about it, I mentioned it recently, is that we at Zoom had 10 million participants every day, even before the pandemic. It's a huge number. And the idea was really kind of creating that productivity for distributed teams. So how do we continue that in this hybrid work kind of concept? That's the question, and how we make it effective.
Another issue that we see is that some employees have access or are living in a commutable distance to the office, right? And then they can come twice or 3 times a week. But the reality is that large portion of the workforce is actually distributed, right, or dispersed, and without access to any physical space. So how do you solve this problem of democratizing space and making sure everyone has the same access to the space that they need?
Yes, I think this is a problem that really comes up for all the organizations that move to that hybrid work. Recently Zoom announced it, and there was a lot of discussion. Okay, that remote work is gone, but really the core problem is for these employees that cannot come physically to the office. And I think one aspect of it is to provide the ability to travel, but from a budget standpoint, that's not feasible in kind of many cases. So how do you compensate for that? And I think Flexspace is really ideal in the sense that you can allow remote teams that are in the same location to have that ability to meet synchronously and have these activities, either joining all hands, a QBR, even a happy hour in the same location. And what Flexspace provides is the manageability of it, right? The only way to scale it and allow it to every employees and make it happen so that people remotely can have the benefit of coming together is having such a manageable solution.
Yeah, and maybe that's a good segue to technology, right? I mean, we had like a few conversation in the past, and I think we both big believers that technology connects people. And today with generative AI, right, and these new capabilities that it brings to the table, how do you think that will impact the future of work?
Yes, I think the assumption is that not everybody can come to the office. And so how do you allow the people who are remote to really feel that they are included? And technology is really the best way to kind of bridge that. And one aspect is really the asynchronous collaboration that allows, like, through messaging, through file sharing, and new technologies like Slack Huddle and Zoom Huddle and other kind of continuous collaboration capabilities that will allow people to feel that they are in the office to some extent in a continuous way. But there's also other things that need to be done in terms of connecting the physical conference room, for example, with the remote participants, and using new technologies in the conference room to make it more really tied and more supportive of the remote participant. That was the kind of the core idea behind the Zoom rooms, is to connect remote participants and remote offices together. How do you take it to the next level so people do it more in a continuous way and feel really included with the people that are coming to the headquarters? That's really key.
Yeah, just sorry, but this is a good, I think this is a good message for the flexible space operator or the co-working operators, right? The more you can equip the meeting rooms with the technology that will make that connection seamless, the better the experience will be, and people will be able to utilize that in a much more productive way.
Exactly. Yes.
What about the other problem that we're seeing, even when companies decide on their hybrid schedule, right? On like certain days to come to the office, still there's a lot of issues with people that are coming to the office, but their colleagues are not there, or they are, kind of feeling at the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, it's a really space and time problem with a lot of degrees of freedom. Not an easy problem to solve.
Definitely, but that's key problem that really needs to be addressed. I think there is really work being done by the productivity tools themselves, like with Google with their calendar and Microsoft with Teams and Outlook, but also companies like Zoom have the workspace reservation. That really these tools allow people to know when people are coming to the office, when they're in the office, and when they are remote, so that they can coordinate between them to be together in the office. And I think that's kind of key to adopt these tools and make sure people use them in the right way, so that the sessions where people are coming to the office are productive. And it's kind of that synchronous collaboration happens face to face rather than kind of on using tools.
So do you see a future where each of us will have their own AI assistant that will sync or integrate with the calendar and other people's calendar and help manage all of that?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the AI assistant or the co-pilot. You think about it from a scale perspective. In the current world, you have the executives have their admins who are really kind of able to schedule these types of sessions and all hands, but it's kind of not scalable. Not everybody can have a person dedicated to helping them do that coordination. So what if you had a bot, some kind of software that does it for you, that knows exactly, who are your buddies, who is your, who your teammate is, who your manager is, and helps you coordinate and schedule these sessions and make sure that these synchronous collaboration sessions, you have the right people. And, that's kind of really the future in my eye of generative AI. I wrote about it. That virtual assistant is a key component, a key utility to really make hybrid work even better.
Interesting. So everyone will have the exec experience, right? With the
Exactly.
EA and scheduling the corner office with a nice view. That's a nice future to paint.
Yeah, that's that's the idea of generative AI. How does it kind of provide these capabilities to everyone, not just for a few?
So we have I have two more questions before we'll jump to Q&A. With all the technology progress that we're seeing, right? I think technology is the end of it, right? That's what really enables remote work. We're seeing, or hybrid work. We're already seeing that, and I'm sure that will only will get better. So do you see a future where physical space or the physical office is dead?
I don't see really replacement for the physical office and meeting face to face. But as I mentioned, it needs to be really when people meet physically, they need to have really a meaningful session. What I do see is, back to kind of generative AI and AI in a visual standpoint. If you remember, there used to be a product called Cisco Telepresence that kind of died down. The reason it died down because it wasn't scalable. You had this kind of half an office in one location, another half in the other location, and it would create this perception that everybody is sitting in the same space, but it used actual hardware, even the furniture, everything was calibrated. It was really tough to build, very expensive. So it wasn't scalable, and people kind of didn't adapt it over a long period of time. What can happen is that creating that experience of people sitting in the same room can be done using AI, using new devices, and using these new capabilities around audio and video, and creating these images. Think about creating this single room where everybody is sitting together virtually. And even if you come to a conference room, you feel as if the people that are behind the screen are sitting in the same room with you, but instead of using hardware and using furniture, it just virtually creates it. That's kind of one aspect of it. I think the other aspect is really, how do you create this technology in the conference room that, again, facilitates the meeting? Today, you come into the room and you really have to worry about, do I see everyone remote on the screen? Do I really collaborate with them when I share my screen, when they share the screen? What do they see? What do I see? What if that kind of virtual assistant or meeting facilitator is in the conference room, helps you make that experience the best, and takes care of all the configuration in the room, chooses the right cameras? I think both Microsoft Teams and Zoom Rooms are already taking a step into that direction by arranging the layouts in the conference room in a way that feels this way. But the ultimate vision is really to create a virtual telepresence, and that will happen over time.
That is fascinating. Just before we jump into the audience questions, what advice do you have for organizations that are in transition to hybrid work today?
I think, people need to really accept that this is the new world, first of all, right? Going back and bringing everyone to the office, that's a given that will not happen. That world is gone. So start with that. And then there are, hybrid work is not ideal, but how do you use tools, embrace tools that will make it better? So technology-wise, solutions like Flexspace that allow to scale the ability for remote teams to meet together physically, that's one. Using productivity tools and embrace the AI that they're giving, like Zoom and Teams and others already deploying kind of betas of AI. Embrace it, try it out, really make the best of what is existing today and learn from it and adapt it, just like Uber adapted new technologies from Zoom early on, and they were ahead of the game because of that. In the distributed teams, the same way, by adapting these new technologies, you will create a better hybrid experience for the employees and kind of face it. This is the new way of working.
Fantastic. Thank you, Oded. Kristen, do we have any questions?
We do, actually. We had a few folks who were able to email us before the session to ask their questions. Of course, if you're watching live, you can still ask questions using the Q&A. So please go ahead and do that. One of the questions we received is about measuring success. Is a successful measure of strategies that are being implemented productivity? Is it employee engagement? How do you know that what you're doing with your team, let's just say a hybrid work team, is actually working? And I guess the second follow-up question was, how do you actually measure productivity?
That's a good question, in the sense that really you take all that effort and you make these changes. How do you know that it works? It's really important to have these measurements. And one aspect of it is really using tools like Office, and even Google and Zoom have the capability to really create reports and measure how people are really using the tools, how much they participate in meetings. I think, with actually the ability to record meetings and analyze what's going on in meetings themselves to really understand how people are collaborating is one way to do that. I think with Flexspace, using kind of that tool as a scalable solution across the organization is really important. It's not siloed in different locations. You have one centralized tool that creates all the reports around remote people going into spaces. And these kind of tools can provide the reporting, understanding what's going on, how people are really kind of meeting in these physical sessions together. Eyal, I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I'll just add on top of that that it's also, new way of working means new way of managing, and I think managers will need to be very attentive to their teams to make sure that they are productive and engaged. The old way of managing might not be so effective, especially when you manage remote. So I would put a lot of emphasis on training and speaking with managers and making sure that they have the right tools.
All right, another question is curious about your thoughts on virtual reality. Is that going to replace the office eventually? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the direction of actually the headsets that are used for virtual reality is being changed by companies like Apple, for example, who are taking it into more of a mixed reality, where the headset itself creates this addition to the reality itself, where you can see through it, and it will kind of apply more information and more visual capabilities on top of your existing world. And that's kind of a really strong concept in the sense that you're not isolated. You see your surrounding and think of it as you can enhance the experience even in physical spaces. So if you sit in a conference room and you have a kind of mixed reality headset, you'll be able to experience things that are on top of what's available in the conference room itself. So things like 3D models, 3D objects, even holograms of other people's in the room in the future. And even that telepresence experience can be really leveraging that technology. But the idea is that you're not isolated in a separate virtual world. It's a mixed world where the kind of the augmented reality is on top of the physical space. And that would be key. And I think that's kind of flipping the talk track around virtual reality to be something more applicable, more pragmatic, especially in the workspace.
All right. Kristen, I know we are almost at time. Any more questions or?
Well, I think I think there's one more question if we can fit it in, and it just has to do with the overwork and work-life balance, right? That so many managers, experienced managers in particular, are rightfully concerned about employee well-being. And the physical office offered some parameters to give people a sort of on and off switch with their work. So, I think it would be helpful to hear from both of you your thoughts on how work-life balance for people in remote or hybrid work setups. How can companies really manage this balance of wanting productivity, but also keeping in mind the mental health and well-being of their employees?
Yeah, that's really a good point in the sense that if you want to create like a new world of work, you have to take that into consideration and create as part of your work policy, not just about when to come to the office, but also how to control the amount of work and how to make it in more, I would say, something that people can live with. And the idea in my eyes is think about the employee work time frame rather than just the company time frame, in the sense of having people in different time zones. But I think also, and that could be a little bit controversial, employees that are fully remote, that cannot come to the office, on one side, they have that flexibility to work from their home office, but on the other side, they will need to give something up. Maybe they, in terms of reporting how much they work, using tools like what Office provides, Microsoft Graph, recording the meeting so people can, understand what their actually performance is during the meetings that they're in. So if you are a person that is fully remote and you do want that work-life balance, you will have to give a little bit back to the company so that they can understand what you're doing and how you're doing it, to be able to really kind of keep that balance.
Totally agree. Totally agree with that. And, just adding to it is defining the boundaries, right? And making sure that schedules are aligned with everyone's work and life balance, and also making sure that there's no expectations into working around the clock. And we know that from working with teams across different time zones. So setting out those boundaries, and also to Oded's point, it's a very delicate balance between what you get with flexibility and what you need to give up. And that's a big question and a big challenge.
Yeah, I think you can just ask for, I'm just working from home and that's it. You need to say, okay, if I'm working from home, I need to really provide more information about how I work so that I can earn that flexibility. And that's, I don't know if everybody will agree with me, but I feel there needs to be some give and take.
Well, thank you so much to everyone who attended live. Thank you, Oded, for being here. Thank you to Eyal. We will be hosting fireside chats monthly, and you can find more information about those as well as recordings. Of course, you will be receiving this recording in your email. You can visit Flexspace.ai. And if you want to connect with our host and guest on social media, you can find them on LinkedIn as well as on Twitter. So thank you so much to both of you, and thank you to everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Oded.